Sunday, happy Sunday, happy Sunday. Welcome to a new month. Welcome to the month of June. It's Coach Lee, your productivity, accountability coach and strategist, here to help legal professionals and other women create a life that their career can't destroy. And so as we journey into this month of June, we're approaching, like literally, as we journey through this month of June, we're approaching the halfway point of this year. And so I want you to understand now, before we even get started, that you're not failing at balance. And so I understand that coming into this year, you set goals, you had these plans, you had ambition, as you should. But now you're starting to look around and you're kind of ask yourself, do I like what's happening? Like, why does the success that I pushed so hard for, the achievements that I wanted to have, why do they feel so heavy? Why does it feel like I'm not actually enjoying this life that I get to live? You're not failing at balance. You're not failing at balancing success. You're not failing at having the career and living and enjoying life. But what you might be realizing, and you're like, but what do we do about that, is that your career is consuming the space that you would use to actually recover. And what I mean by that is exactly what we're going to be diving in and what we're going to be talking about. Because I'm speaking from the attorney lens here, and you might hear me talking and it might relate to you on a different level, which is fine. Oftentimes, as legal professionals, and I did a post last week and a couple attorneys commented on that, you rarely feel off. One person commented and she was talking about, well, she was actually doing weekend duty, so in her defense, I'll give her a pass. That she's like currently on a work call, and I'm like, pause, why are you on a work call on a Saturday? And then she said she had weekend duty. Acceptable. And then one was saying that, like, he would go on vacation, and like the first and the last day of vacation, he basically, all he was thinking about was work. I just came back from vacation last night. I thought about work twice, like in two instances really. One, because my coworker texted me and she asked me a question, and it was my mentee, so I told her yes. Given technically I didn't know it was a work question she wanted to ask, she said, hey, can I ask you a question? And I responded and said, yeah, what's up? It then proceeded to be a work question. And the second one was, I had a work call that I agreed to do, like it was like a training, to log in for a while on vacation. So like I was thinking about, like, you know, as we were planning out our day, making sure I would be available to be on said call. But aside for that, child, work, I'll see you tomorrow, i.e. Monday when I get back. And so today we're going to talk about like why you rarely feel off. And by off, I don't mean like something feels off. I mean off as in like, I'm clocked out. We're out of office. Like, why isn't it giving what it needs to give? Why don't you feel that way? And because of that, it is going to lead into really diving into the mental load, like the mental load and the mental carryover. There's the word that I'm looking for, that often comes with the roles that we play, even outside of those working hours. But understand that because you're not feeling at balance, there's a solution. And that your success and your ambition doesn't have to cost you your ability to rest, to recover, to turn things off. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And so if you're listening to this, whether you're an attorney, you're in the legal field or not, ask yourself, why does success still feel so heavy? Because to get to the place that we have to be, like to get to this, like being an attorney ain't easy. Like, though we might make it look easy, there's 7 years of school if it takes you the whole time. 7 years, hold on, what we got? 7 years of school. So 4 years undergrad, 3 years law school, studying for and passing the bar exam, getting a job, the continuing education that you have to do like every 3 years. If you apply for a certification, like I'm board certified, studying for taking and passing the board certification exam, like let alone the requirements to get there. Then I gotta recertify every 5 years. which involves more CLEs, which typically they all fall the same, like more continuing education. And to do these things in the midst of this, like peer review stuff goes out, so you got to be a good person because people got to vouch for your credibility. Exactly. To get to this point was not easy. And whether we make it look easy or not, something sometimes has to give. And so what I want to walk through is using the Lee method to really dive in and help you to understand and walk through, like I said, this process. And so as you ask yourself the question of why does success feel so heavy, I want you to look at, what do you notice? What do you notice about your life? Tell me if any of these resonate. Think about it, because we have to walk through this process. We have to go through the look at the examine to figure out the solution, i.e. your game plan to execute. And so you think that you're struggling with time, but here it is Sunday, and we're going to talk about work just a little bit. Does your weekend disappear without feeling like you actually rested? We already talked about how we need these 4-day work weeks because of the fact that when am I supposed to do my adulting after I get off work? Because realistically, you get off work Friday, you got Saturday, you got the whole day Saturday, and then you got like half a day Sunday because you got to start winding down to get back ready for work. When do you rest? And I'm not talking about the adulting aspect of it. Okay, so answer me this. When it comes to work, when do you disconnect? Like, do you struggle to fully disconnect from work? Or does everything remind you about work? Or does everything trigger work and now you're working again? Tell me what's resonating. Are you just overall exhausted? Do you have that, like, if I wasn't so tired, I would list? Like, if I wasn't so tired, I would work out. If I wasn't so tired, I would meal prep. If I wasn't so tired, I would wake up early. If I wasn't so tired, I would actually rest, relax, play a puzzle, do a game, do something. Do you have that list? Do you feel, or know, because we hear, do you know that, like, okay, I'm successful. I've achieved these accolades. I've got to this point. I've got to this place. But at what cost? Because oftentimes, the more successful you become, the more roles and responsibilities that you have. You thought when you was low man on the totem pole, it was bad. But it was bad then because you didn't understand what was going on. Like, you didn't understand the acronyms. You didn't understand how to manage and juggle this caseload. But now that you understand that, now it's like, oh, because you've been here for a little bit, now you got a mentee. Now you have these additional roles. Now you've proven and shown that you're good at this, so now you actually got more responsibilities. But you still got those old responsibilities as well, right? Exactly. And so, as a result, do you feel like every time you look around, something is happening in life? Not to you and not for you, but life is happening all around you. But like, your career and your life are like disconnected. It feels like you have to, in order to have success in one area, you can't have success in both. Like, either I need to be being successful in my life and my career has to take a standstill. Or if I'm going to be successful in my career, my life has to take a standstill. What if I told you it didn't have to be one or the other? It could be both. What if I told you it didn't have to be one or the other? It could be both. What if I told you it didn't have to be one or the other? It could be both. What then? Does that change the way you even look at the roles that you play, the life that you're living, the work that you've done to get to this point? Because if it does, and if it has, I want you to know that, yes, you're working. Yes, you keep saying, I'm going to not bring work home. And maybe you've even mastered the physical aspect of leaving the work computer, leaving the files, like physically leaving work at work, but now you're mentally at home thinking about work. And now there's this balance of that, because there are going to be things that are going to remind you of work, just like you're at work and things remind you of things you should have did at home. There are going to be those times, but are they fleeting thoughts, or are they the thoughts that keep recurring and that cause you not to be able to enjoy what it is you're actually doing? Like, were you watching TV and now this episode has triggered you to think about work and now you can't stop thinking about work? Because I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't think about work on the weekends or when I'm off. but it's a fleeting thought. It's not something that lingers to where I can't focus and enjoy what it is that I'm doing. Because sometimes when I'm not thinking about work, I get a theory of defense for a case. I think about a motion that I might could file, or something in life clicks the button that I've been looking for, and I'll jot it down and stick it on, not going on about my day. But when you get to the point, to the place to where the thoughts of work consume you, your evenings after you leave work, your weekends, your vacations, your sleep, good God, that's when you have a problem. And so when we look at that, now we need to understand, why is that happening? And so as we walk to the next phase, keep that kind of question in the forefront. Like, why is this happening to me? Here's why. There's 3 reasons really that this happens. Number 1, legal work doesn't end when the workday ends. Number 2, the time off, the downtime, you mistake it for like free time. We're going to dive in. We're going to talk about that. And the other reason is that you're so focused on what you do, like the output, that it's not actually sustainable. Okay, so let's talk about it. So we talked about the mental carryover. We talked about the difference between those fleeting thoughts of, oh, this could be a theory of defense, this could be emotion, and you keep moving on. But what about the times where this client is like invading every ounce of your brain, where this case is all you can think about, where you have this deadline, and because it's looming, you can do nothing else? And so again, I'm coming from the legal lens, but you might be listening to this, you might be thinking about the appointments that you have to make, the schedules, the emails. We all got jobs, careers, whatever you want to call it, your work, because we adults. And adulting requires, I don't know if you've seen this economy, but adulting requires working to pay bills. And so because of that, you're at this place to where all of these things just keep coming up. Like, what is the deadline? How am I going to meet this deadline? Why does this client want this? What does this client even want? Oh, the client's family wants you to do something. Your boss wants you to do something. Everybody, every Tom, Dick, and Harry wants something for you, wants something from you, but they don't want the same thing. And so now you're being pulled in every direction, sometimes even on that same case with that same client. 4 different things are needed, and none of them, they don't mesh, they don't gel together. And so because when that's the case, you leave work frustrated because of the fact that none of this goes together. But when am I supposed to work on all of it? Because of the deadlines, right? And so now you're off work physically, but mentally you're still there. And so you find yourself at work just scrolling through your emails, flipping through the case file, getting up, going to ask a coworker a question, just walking around the office. Sometimes just sitting at your desk, brainstorming ideas and not actually doing anything. None of that actually gives you the space to recover. And I get you're at work, so you shouldn't necessarily be recovering at this point. You should be working. But now you've left home, and because of the fact that you didn't actually get anything done at work, now you're at home beating yourself up about the fact that you didn't get this done at work. And so you find yourself aimlessly scrolling on social media, and then now you look up and you've lost 2-3 hours of time, and you was like, I was supposed to use this time to work out. I was supposed to meal prep. I was supposed to wash this load of laundry, fold these clothes, prep for tomorrow. And now here it is past your bedtime, and you're frustrated again with yourself. So you left work frustrated with yourself. You're now at home frustrated with yourself. And now you're going to bed frustrated with yourself, which means you get into bed and you're beating yourself up mentally still about all the things you didn't do. The ability to recover involves you being able to mentally disengage. Now, I got Fitbit, and Fitbit and Google is partnering, and they got Google Health now instead of Fitbit. I don't really know, but they got this recovery thing that tells you about how your body recovers. And before we was doing real good, my body was recovering good. They was applying to me on my sleep, all the things. But lately, that bad boy said my recovery was at like, oh no, not my recovery. My readiness score was at a 15 out of 100. What do you mean? You told me my sleep was good. You told me that I did good in my workout. Like, what do you mean my readiness is a 15? Their explanation still don't make sense to me, so we'll figure that part out later. But I want you to think about that in the sense of you. How often are you going about brain constantly on go? You ever have those times when you pull into the garage and you just sit in the car and you're like, I'm gonna just sit here because what? The act of getting out of this car, unlocking the door, and walking into the house, because what's waiting for me inside? More work. And so we've built these systems, understandably, especially if you work in a firm where you're dealing with billable hours, to where our systems are built around output. It's built around the work. It's built around the work that we do. And because it's built around the work that we do, the way in which we show up and what we get done is what we look at as success. But that's not actually sustainable. Because yes, what you output leads to success, and so now your success is continuing to grow and continue to flourish. But like we talked about before, the more successful you are, likely the more responsibilities that you have, and you're getting and being more successful, and so now you have more work to do, but you was already struggling and mentally exhausted before you got this additional success, so your quality of life is continuing to diminish. And the cycle continues. So again, you leave work frustrated, you come home frustrated, now you're going to bed frustrated, but yet and still you keep showing up and you keep doing the work. Because we have to. And I get that. But again, what if it didn't have to be this way? What if it didn't have to be this way? Yes, we do have to show our work. Let's say this is math. We do got to show our work. I'm not negating that. We do have to talk to the clients, file the motions, move the cases, close the case. Like, we do have to do work. And oftentimes the real work is not shown until the very end. And so we're working on these metrics that we oftentimes have put on ourselves about what success looks like. And so we're showing up and we're like, look how fast I closed this, look how fast I moved this. And really that just means your boss is going to assign you more cases. Oh, you can handle that. Say less. Because even if you slow down a little bit with this added work, it's going to balance out. But what if it didn't have to be this way? This is where the game plan comes into play. This is where the execution mode comes into play. This is where you really stop and ask yourself, where is work showing up outside of work? In what ways is work following me home? It could be physically. It could be mentally. It could be emotionally. It could be fill in the blank. In what ways is work showing up outside of work? Now, if you work from home, this might be all the more thing for you to really think about, because of the fact that you have to create and delineate this difference between the work you that's on and the work you that's also living in the house within which you work. When do you recover? Like, when do you taking time for self? We talk a lot about self-care. Self-care is important in all the things, and I'm not negating that it's not. But when are you actually taking time for self? Because that self-care is a part of your recovery. Do you even know what recovery looks like? Like, is it in decompressing and watching an episode of TV? Is it in the brainstorming? Is it in the gym time, the meal prepping, the what? What is recovery going to look like for you this week? Because the systems that you're building for that output, it shouldn't only help you to perform. The system should also help you to recover, because recovery is also an output. If we're going to talk about outputs here, what does that look like for you? What does that sound like for you? What does that mean for you? Because, yes, we have these jobs, but we are not these jobs. And as we go through this month and as we prepare to enter this halfway point of the year, you really need to understand that if you want your systems, if you want your career to stop consuming your life, you have to look at the systems that you built for your career so that that can stop happening. So when I say that I help legal professionals create a life that their career can't destroy, it literally comes back to the systems. And so I'm going to be hosting a masterclass at the end of this month, June 27th. It's a Saturday. The Mid-Year Reset Masterclass, where we're going to literally like walk through this, talk through this, so that as you're resetting yourself for the halfway point of the year, you can look back on those goals, the intentions, the plans, all the things that you set coming into this year of what you wanted life to be and what you wanted life to look like to fix that. So, are you in? Because if you in, you can come and reset to get the link. The link's gonna go live. I'm finishing up the landing page. Technically, the link is live, but y'all just don't have it yet. The link will go live tomorrow. And so, if you're ready to build or rebuild systems that helps you when it comes to your career, because in helping you when it comes to your career, it's gonna help you when it comes to life. Because when work is wonky, your life gets wonky. When life is good, work is good. It's all a balance. What does that look like for you? What does that look like for you? Your systems that you have, they shouldn't just help you perform. They should help you to recover. And recovery is where the work is. Recovery is where the work shows up. And so here's your reminder. You're not failing at balance. And when I've been talking about balance, we're talking about balancing work, i.e. your career and your life. You're not failing at that. You just don't have systems that allow you to really show up and to do that. And so as we walk through the lead method to really look at that, to examine that, to talk about what is this game plan we're going to use to execute that, remind yourself of the core question. Why does success still feel so heavy? What do you notice when you look at your life, when you look at your career, when you really think about it, i.e. when you really examine it? Why is this happening? And then when you're ready to shift, when you're ready to execute, when you're ready to do something differently, that's when you have to really start asking yourself the tougher questions. Where and how is work showing up outside of work? Where and how are you actually recovering and taking the time for yourself? And as you go into this week, because this is Success Starter series, right? So we're talking about how we're setting ourselves up for the week. What recovery activity do you need to protect this week? Hey, what does that look like for you? What does that mean for you? How does that show up for you? And so I want you, as always, to do your brain dump, to make your to-do list. But as you're doing both of those things, doing it through the lens of what needs to shift this week, what needs to be different this week. Both what do I want to be different and what actually needs to be different. Because if you're listening to this and you're like, something has to change, number one, the Mid-Year Reset Masterclass is for you. So comment the word reset and I can get you the link. But if you're like, yeah, you said that masterclass is the end of this month, I don't got 3 more weeks to deal with this. Send me a DM, let's have a conversation. Let's talk about what that change could look like, literally starting this week. What are you willing to do to show up for you? How are you willing to show up for you? Because if you say that something needs to give and something has to change, what change are you putting forth? It starts with you. I can talk till I'm blue in the face. Hello, full-time criminal defense attorney. I literally talk for a living. And now we bring in this coaching aspect. I can talk. But it's not just about the talk, it's about the action. And the life that I live as a result of this action. I got back from vacation last night. I didn't get in bed till midnight. But yet and still I was up at 5 a.m. this morning, getting my workout in, going for my run. I meal prepped before I went for vacation. I took the food out of the freezer so it's currently defrosting so that I can eat. And I have my meal prep for the week. I've my desk is a mess. Like, I've done my brain dump. I've made my to-do list. I know what it is that I'm focusing on. And when I get to work tomorrow, I know exactly where I'm going to tune in. What am I going to do first? Going through my emails, checking my voicemails. I know what showing up for me looks like in business, in work, and in life. So when I say that you're not failing at balance, you just haven't figured out the system that's going to work for you. I'm here to help you literally find and create a system that will work for you. You're not meant to be successful at the expense of yourself. You're not. And so if you need help, if you need support, if you need accountability, again, I'm Coach Lee, your productivity and accountability coach, helping especially legal professionals create systems and to create a life that their career can't destroy. So I'll be back next week for Success Starter Series again. Tap in and tune in this week as we really dive in and kind of break down this question throughout the content this week. If you've got questions, reach out, send me a DM. Thank you all for being here on the live. Go back, listen, answer the questions. If you've got questions, reach out, send me a message. But yeah, until next time, y'all, Coach Lee